We are looking forward our way from Studio C in the 511 studios. That's in the Brewery District, just south of downtown Columbus, Ohio. Hi, this is Brett. Each November, Carol and I provide a look at issues that affect our veterans. We've discussed how veterans can enter the civilian labor force, the role of women in the military, and resources that are available for veterans of all ages. Today, we welcome Ronnie Bailey. He is the Human Resources Manager for Bullen Ultrasonics, located in Eaton, Ohio. Ronnie, thank you so much for joining us and driving here, which you did not have to do. We could have pulled you in Zoom, but we're glad to have you in Columbus.
Well, thank you very much. I understand that doing a podcast through Zoom can have an effect on the quality of the overall show. So I just wanted to make sure to, help you guys out, get it best we can.
And it's exciting to meet somebody face to face. We've heard so much about Bullen, and we're excited that you came in to see us. So thank you, and thank your colleague Katie for setting this up, and we are ready to go. And again, audience, we are going to provide you with resources on our show notes when we post this website or this podcast. And so we want to make sure that our veterans in the audience, or if audience members have veterans in their families or friends, that they have the resources they need for employment. It's important that they get the information because it's not easy going back into the civilian labor force. So we're trying to highlight their skills and abilities. So we're good. We are good. So again, thank you for joining us today. We want to discuss the role that Bullen is playing in supporting local veterans. But also I want to mention that Bullen is an award-winning organization. They have the AS 9100 certification by the Society of Aviation Engineers and has been recognized by the Dayton Business Journal and the U.S. Department of Labor for all of their work that they have been doing in their hiring practices. But before we get that all started, we want to know more about you, your background, and how you came to be a member of the Bullen team.
All right. Well, believe it or not, both my parents at one point in time worked for Bullen. My dad does currently. My mom did, when I was in school. Before I graduated, I got on. Bullen used to have 2 plants, and I got on at the other plant, and and that was good. I did that for 4 years. I was worked in a shipping department as a shipping clerk, and it was good. But I didn't have any experience with really anything that could further my career. Mm-hmm. I was maxed out as far as my pay, and I didn't like that being 21, 22, maxed out at my pay. So
right.
I was getting married and wanted to prove that I could take care of a family, and the economy wasn't great around 2011. So mm-hmm. You guys remember that?
Oh yes, yes. We were just barely coming out of the recession at that point.
Oh, yeah. So I joined the Army then and got out in 2017. And big thing was while I was in, I focused on sharpening leadership skills and seeing what all I could do while I was in that could translate to the outside. That was a big help of having, my grandfather and my father-in-law being in, and also my dad give me those kind of pointers as, the resources are kind of there to train you these certain things, but how do you translate them into the real world? That's up to you.
And you were in the Army, but your other relatives were in other branches of the service.
Right. So my dad and grandfather were Air Force, and my father-in-law was Army, along with my mother-in-law too.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. And then you just push right back.
Yeah. After that, we wanted to be back around family, and that was kind of my comfort zone was Bullen. I knew that I'd be taken care of, so I went back to it and got on as a machine operator, and then just worked on maximizing opportunities, when they came up, and see what I could do, try to prove myself, and I became line lead of the aerospace line, second shift supervisor after some time, and then ended up in HR. So
Wonderful.
Wow, interesting. So tell us the fun facts about Bullen. I mean, the main facility is in Eaton. That's between Dayton and Indianapolis. Established over 50 years ago. What's the history of Bullen? What's it known for manufacturing? What's produced at your location? The types of industries that are supported through Bullen's operations. Are there other locations as well too? Kind of give us a picture of what Bullen is.
Right. So we no longer have other locations. We're at the one location.
Okay.
It's pretty neat, just like Eaton itself, how diverse of jobs that we have. I mean, Henny Penny's doing very well, and Silfex, which used to be our other building, and Bullen. So we're really diverse as far as what we have, and Parker and other jobs in the area. But we don't have our own product, so we perform a service. We machine hard brittle materials that glass, sapphire, silicon, things like that. That if you were to put it onto a drill press and cut, it would just crack, right? Mm-hmm. So we have different ways that we can be very precise with machining different features on these products that go into everything from, aircraft to pressure plate sensors for cars and all sorts of stuff like that.
One of my former careers, I worked for a packaging company. And it's fascinating how manufacturing works. But things have changed so much over time. It's like with the car industry. Not all the bits and pieces are at that location, and they're certainly not all made at that location. But you don't think about the fact where somebody who's making something that's a fairly complex piece of machinery has one little tiny widget that needs to be taken care of in a very precise manner, and that there are huge industries out there that do those, I don't want to call it a service, but do that manufacturing task.
Right. And we've got various craftsmen of all sorts of types, our people in the machine shop that understand how to make the machine do things that sometimes they weren't designed for, but they're very good at what they do,
Exactly.
Well, a screwdriver can hammer a nail sometimes.
Yeah, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But we've got a very skilled group of people that know how to get the job done. So.
Wonderful. That is great. Well, you worked your way up to be an HR manager. I mean, that's phenomenal.
Well, what drew you to that? Let's go, because you were on the floor. Mm-hmm. And what drew you to HR?
Well, a lot of it was, I think, I kind of earned that mindset in the military of, you try to always improve, don't be content with being fine, So what's next? And it's not like you have to be bullish about it, but just always try to improve yourself and your standing. And it just seemed to be, line lead was a logical step, so it's, well, that's the next one up. It's kind of mostly 90% the same job, but I got these other responsibilities. Cool. And I got to apply the leadership abilities I've had elsewhere and kind of see how they adapted. And supervision, that was like, okay, like I'm better at this than I am the technical stuff. I'm better with people. And it just, as a supervisor, I learned that I discovered more things I liked was, maybe it's not just talking, it's like the development. I like finding people, and luckily Bullen is a place that fosters this, but we're not really focused on, selfishly want you to be the best for the company, but it's, if we can try to grow you into what you want to be, like, we're going to invest in you that way versus trying to force you into this place that you might not want.
Yeah.
It'll help the overall morale of the facility, but also,
right.
Now if, let's say we develop somebody and they finish their degree through our tuition assistance program and then they go elsewhere, well, what do they say? They talk to other people in this other company about how good that we've taken care of them. How does that not benefit us too?
Right.
So
right.
Very good.
It's trying to not look so short-sighted and just look longer term.
When you think about it, I mean, a company, the largest part of the company is sort of at the bottom. And as you go up the ladder at the company, there are fewer opportunities. And so you want to try to keep people there. You don't want to have to, you want a higher retention rate. You don't want to have to keep recruiting. But when I was working in higher education at a large university, it was bound and determined that people are going to be moving around for a lot of different reasons. But it is a positive step. If somebody goes from our office to another counseling office, well, there's our contact there that we didn't have a contact with before. So it works really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that transition to kind of circle back to finish your question. The transition into HRs, we had the opening. And,
of course, yeah.
That really worked well.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And
sure.
It really worked with, okay, now instead of working with only the second shift group, this is where I can help try to develop the needs of everyone within a facility. And that very much appealed to me. And it was kind of like the stuff that I wasn't as good at. I didn't have to do that anymore. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Very true.
Sure.
Very true.
It felt like it, even though it never went into my mind, I don't think there's kids in the backyard playing HR manager. But
Are you sure?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. I've met some HR managers that I'm thinking they probably did.
Well, but it's kind of it just seemed to work out that my personal philosophies of how things should be handled as far as policy and how you can use that to support people and their needs, it transitioned well into, it'd be kind of neat to be the one to help write those policies.
Oh, true.
Now I can make sure that these are taken care of, and just support people in a different way.
So my question was going to be, what are the traits and skills that are of the individuals who work at Bullen, and how does all of this fit into the culture of the organization? But it sounds to me like you've really taken a step toward helping to build, I don't want to act like you had no culture, but, build and foster a huge opportunity for a lot of people at the organization.
Well, it's about keeping it going. Bullen's had the reputation of that, since I was a kid. Like when my mom initially got hired, it's like, oh wow, that's cool. Like even at school, it's like, oh, my mom's been trying to get on there. How'd she get on? And for a smaller company, that take a lot of pride in that. And as we've, expanded and things, it's like, well, how do we maintain that culture, as we expand? And so you have to, continue to update your strategic plan but make sure that we still stay who we are, keep our identity.
Can you remember going through positions and places where you were located in the military that fostered this notion of creating a culture and building staff? I mean, it's really kind of a military code here,
yeah,
what it sounds like.
Well, I will say the number one thing for transitioning from military-style human resources to, which again I didn't do, to civilian side is I was like, well, I'm definitely not losing anybody's leave form, and that's a joke for anyone who's ever been in. I don't think anyone's ever submitted a leave form once.
In the military,
yeah. Absolutely. But no, there's individuals that, I've been with, different NCOs that kind of in each rank, my team leaders, my squad leaders that I've had, and, we've had an array of, the very good and needs improvement, but the ones that were good, it's why they were good and why they spoke to you differently, and it's not that they had that same philosophy of how do we grow you as a person and as an adult, and how, when you're having a kid, how they, try to help support you that way, as much as like, hey, my kid outgrew their hangers, when you're a private and someone gives you a bag of hangers, that's awesome, because you don't have to go buy 200 hangers, So just things like that of how they could support you as a person beyond their job duties. And then that's like, that left such an impression on you, then it's like, well, how do I do that for other people?
And I would think too that when you were in the military and you became in leadership positions in the military, you were dealing with very young people. I mean, we're giving 18-year-olds, 17 and 18-year-olds a lot of responsibility in the military. So when you go to Bullen and you're working with new and younger staff, lots of commonalities there.
Yeah, I think that helped quite a bit. It helped that, my time in Korea, I had 2 Katusas that were South Korean soldiers that were also we worked with, and so that kind of helped with. Sometimes people have a hard time if they have a different accent than you or what have you.
Right, sure.
That really helped with that. Okay, so a lot of it with the younger workers, people say they're unmotivated or what have you, but it's really, that's not it. They need the why. And even in the military, we saw that as well, where they, well, here's your order, go. Like, but what's that do? What's the impact? Like, how do I know that it's doing a good job beyond what those lines say? And there's times definitely in the military where you can't go beyond that. But, in the civilian side, why can't I tell them what that part does that they do? Because now they can reach in. I mean, NDAs, stuff like that. But if it's within that realm of legal, let them know that what they're doing is important and why. And then now, maybe they will take that extra step to make sure that it's within tolerance and stuff like that.
Especially if it's a safety piece that a life could hinge on you making it the spec that it's supposed to be.
Right. Like when I was training people to for our aerospace section, I'd say, well, guys, keep in mind you can't pull over at the next cloud. So if it breaks, make sure it's done right.
I love it. There's no Sheetz gas stations up there to pull in and check the oil. It's got to be done right. Yeah, right. No, that's good. That's good. I like that. I think it's a very nice transition into what we really want to talk about today, Bullen's military hiring program. So let's mention that Bullen was recently recognized by the U.S. Department of Labor with the Hire Vets Medallion for this program. Talk more about the creation of the program and its success over the years.
So we just recently got this award, and we received the gold, and we applied for the platinum this year. So we'll see how it goes. I think what helped out the most, honestly, is we've had a veteran have their hand in the hiring process. There's the guy was a retired veteran. That was the guy that I replaced and taught me. So was it by design? I mean, I don't know, but it just seemed to be, there's a build of person that they wanted, and we fit the mold. And why I bring that up and why that's important is when we get those people that are fresh coming out, they just don't know how to translate what those skills mean. So we can be that bridge. Is for us, it's like, okay, if the manager for that area and the HR representative will be in the job interview, we could be the one to try to lead them with questions to where they can sell themselves better, or they can just try to translate, even if it's after the interview, kind of be like, hey, he means this, this, and this, or she did this, and that's why it applies. But a lot of times people be more free to speak because they're not tripped up on verbiage trying to say what's going to translate well to them. It's like, okay, cool. Like you'll see a lot of times they'll just like kind of zero in. Like, okay, this is the one I could talk to. And
I was just going to say, you probably make that person more comfortable.
Absolutely.
Just being in the room. Okay, there's a person in here that gets me, gets my language, and understands where I came from. That's gold right there.
Let me also put in here, it's not just culture or personality or camaraderie. There are specific things that a hiring manager needs to know about a potential new employee, about a job applicant, and the language, the nuances of language of how you describe a job in the military is so different than in the civilian labor force. And that's where there's been this disconnect between veterans finding jobs and hiring managers for non-military organizations need people. And here you have all these incredibly talented vets and great employers, but they can't talk to each other because they don't understand each other's language of job tasks and responsibilities. So that's really where HR is doing a phenomenal job of structuring their HR programs and processes to make that happen. And so this whole military hiring program that the Department of Labor is supporting and Bullen is doing is just amazing.
Right. Oh, thank you for that. And a big part of the hire vets is it's not just on that end. There's a retainment aspect too that you have to
Very
hit
good.
to keep
Mm-hmm.
it, and keeping people engaged. And there's still that need a lot of times to, and again, an individual base. So my apology for the generalization, but there's still that need to be part of a bigger whole of, you have it, like, I played sports in high school. Like, well, cool. I'm working to get this team to accomplish what they can, and then you're out. And then, okay, cool. I'm in the military. We're, as a team, we're working to accomplish whatever goal. Sweet. And then you're out, and you're like, oh, well,
I'm on
I
my
guess
own.
We're back to individual thing,
Yeah,
which I don't understand.
and it's it's not comfortable. So
Yeah.
I remember having a client who his whole resume, and it was like 3 or 4 pages long, always talked about what the team did. In his resume, he never talked about what he did, what his skills were, what his accomplishments. And I thought he was going to be in tears when I told him, I'm like, well, this is all wonderful. It's a great story about your team, but you're not telling the employer anything about what you can do. And it was like, it was breaking his heart. And I'm like, okay, well, we have to move past that. So good point. Thank you so much for saying that. It is a real issue in terms of language on job descriptions, but it is very much a personal issue about being a member of a team and suddenly only being able to talk about yourself in an interview, on an application, even after you've already begun working. That is huge. That's huge for our veterans.
right. And the practicing interviewing, I guess for me in the military, a lot of it was, well, get ready for the NCO board. Well, if you treat an interview like you would the NCO board, like people they're going to be scared because you're going to yell at them. You're going to stand up and be weird, and they're not going to like it. But if that's what makes you feel comfortable, you're like, I'm trying to be as professional as I can. I'm going to sit like a robot, and I'm going to yell everything I got so you can hear me clearly, and you know what I mean? And they're just trying really hard. And, luckily there's ways that we could talk to, like, chill.
Right. Yeah. No,
Without saying that, because that's going to throw them off. But you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
You know?
No, it works. It works.
and I even caught myself doing that, and it's different skills again with the hiring. I've done an interview with our plant manager at the time, and he even did this like in the middle to just get me to relax. He'd tell us, like, you're tense. Like, I see you every day. Like, relax. We're just talking. Tell me,
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
That he gave you the grace to be you at that moment and kind of go, we're good. Just, old habits are hard to break. I get, but
Right.
We're good.
Absolutely.
It was, yeah. Wow. That's a tough situation on both sides of the desk.
Yeah.
It is.
So as I was just mentioning a little bit ago, the whole application process is very different. Resumes are very, very different. There are actually online systems that can help a veteran create a resume and restate what they did in the military on their resume so that it makes sense to an employer. But also an employer can take a look at these systems. If they have a veteran's resume that is all military speak, they can look at this online system and it'll translate it. Basically, it's a translator. So tell us about what you're doing at Bullen in terms of this hiring program for veterans. What are you doing to cut through some of those barriers?
Well, again, I don't know how a lot of companies do it, but for us, a resume really just gets you in the door for the interview. So then it's after the interview, it's like, or not after, but it's, from that time we call you, the interview started. Again, not to give out everything, but, if it's, you apply for a job internally, your interview started from the day that you started, So how do they speak on the phone? Well, be professional, just be polite, kind, and, I don't have a really weird voicemail, things like that, things that have happened. You show up to the interview, act like you care, look decent, a step above what you would normally wear for the job. If you have no idea, I wear a tie every time. I don't know. It's been ingrained since I was a kid to do that, so I do that.
Right.
But it's not going to work against you. So it's really just come across. I mean, a lot of the questions, things like that, you're just looking for honesty. Is this person going to tell me what I want to hear, or are they going to just be upfront? And
do you do any marketing to military through the military to tell folks that there are positions open and that you have this special hiring program?
So we don't. I mean, that might be. It would be hard. Like maybe for our aerospace division, that might be something that we want to kind of reach out to somebody for. But the only part that would really translate is, okay, like we know, for myself working and as an avionics guy, there's a certain amount of quality that you have. It's like, your write-ups were, remove 4 bolts and washers, reinstalled 4 bolts and washers. We need somebody with that kind of attention to detail because, again, with the
no clouds.
Quality with that's right.
Yeah. No cloud bus stop. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But a lot of it is, we talk, like any other group, we talk.
Yeah. So
if
word of
you
mouth
make
is huge.
Yeah. If you make a good impression, then that's why like our facility has a lot of family members, because it's, they'll come in, you're not going to bring your son or daughter or mother or father into a place where they don't treat you right, or at least steer them that way. So that's, to me, it's like, that's kind of our selling point is, okay, we've got a good group of veterans here, they're going to talk to their buddies. It's like, hey man, they'll take care of you. And it's like part of our Veterans Employee Resource Group where we kind of network that way.
What is that?
So that's something that's like 2 years old right now. Pretty excited about that. So we basically the idea of it was we need to make sure that people are aware of these resources. Because a lot of times the verbiage didn't feel right. People think that there's not enough resources, and we have like a lot of the really great things. But those might be underfunded. They might need resources, but the programs are there. We just need people to know how to get there.
Right.
And like you're saying with the resumes, it doesn't matter how great it is if no one knows that they can use it.
Right.
And so that's kind of where me is kind of like run it, but as a group, a lot of these questions, people have like mental health questions or things like that, or how do I talk to the VA? Well, there's a good chance that somebody in our group, right now we're 11 individuals, but there's a good chance that one of us has been impacted, or had to use it, or, when I was in, I had to call this for my soldier, or what have you, where, we can share our resources together. And now this person, this individual doesn't have to go to a corporate place or talk to the front office or go to, just something weird and foreign to them. They can do like, okay, hey, you guys relate to me. I'll talk to you because I know we've had similar struggles.
So basically the members of this group are all employees of Bullen.
Absolutely.
Okay. And do you run that? Do you run the group? Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't found it. No, Heather did. But I kind of just the main point of contact, and it runs like a term we use loosely. Like I make us vote on everything because I just don't want it to look like I'm overbearing the thing. But
well, sometimes that's what, that's really somebody in need. That's maybe what they need is a more informal process. Because coming from the military, needless to say, there's nothing informal done. So yeah, it may that change may be good. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Bullen.
I was going to say, let me ask one more question about the notion of the hiring process. Does the Department of Labor provide you with anything or direction or information or support or resources or anything?
Right now, no.
Okay.
But
so we can send this to them and tell them they need to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like we talked about the other programs. We got a new program. People don't know about it either. If they don't work at our facility, and that's a lot of coming here. I'm hoping that other those companies I mentioned earlier back home, it's like, well, we had our big donation this year, I'm hoping, the other big corporations see that, and then they kind of start a group for their veterans as well.
And, it's in all of the hiring counseling that I've done, once an employer has a successful hiring, whether the person's a veteran, whether it is a person, a young folk who may not have a lot of experience and background, an older adult, once that employer has a good opportunity and a good connection with this new person, new applicant, new employee, they're going to tend to do it again. They're going to take that chance and look at a veteran again. And for the audience, and we'll, again, put all of this on the resources sheet, we've got some great programs with the state of Ohio, and it's based in every county on veterans, through Veterans Services, and it's for the veterans and employers. That's, I think, what the message I'm really trying to get across is, employers, you need people, you need good people. There are ways to get to these veterans, and there are folks who work for the state and the counties who can help you do that. So we'll make sure that we get that information out.
Right. Well, Bullen provides a variety of employee benefits, including profit sharing planning. Are there specific benefits for veterans? Can you talk about the advantages of we've kind of painted a really good picture working for Bullen if you're a veteran, but are there some other advantages of working for Bullen too?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really want to hit up the topic of veterans benefits first. Mm-hmm. This is one of the biggest things where, again, I'm going to have to generalize. We don't want to be treated differently. And so sometimes when people go out of their way to, thank you and all that stuff, it's awkward. So you don't want that feeling of taking advantage of somebody trying to help you. And so if they're like, oh, well, we have this for veterans, but 95% of your employees don't get it, mm-hmm. Or
well, sure,
87%, I think is what we're at, Mm-hmm. So we don't want to be looked at and like, well, how come they? So that's something where the veteran side we kind of push back on. When Bullen decided to kind of take it, I wasn't even in HR yet, but Bullen decided to try to make a more progressive approach here. We kind of backed up, and so like Veterans Day, that was one where they're like, well, how about we give Veterans Day? For one, that's awesome. But we said, well, how about we just all get it? And then that way we can still recognize it, but not in a way that we're singled out. And that was just something that was real cool because so many of us are like, I've never had Veterans Day off,
Mm-hmm. Very good.
So it's just like, you still want to be part of the team, right. You just don't want to be singled out. And, but no, it's like, cool, I appreciate you and I respect you. Cool. That's all we need. And, mm-hmm. Sometimes that's, with a lot of the mental health resources out there, that's all people need to hear, and help them feel that value.
Mm. I love that attitude toward it because it's not a knee-jerk reaction to, we need to do something for veterans, so we're just going to do this and not think it out. And even if Bullen employed 85% veterans and 15% non-veterans, who cares? It's still what you're talking about is the right thing to do. Yeah, it just is. Because everybody it goes back to that team. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's great.
Well, and when you think about it, it would be nice if every veteran had Veterans Day off, but those of us who aren't veterans also want to be part of recognizing the efforts that veterans have gone through to fulfill their military duty, and we can do that outside of our workplace, having Veterans Day off.
Yeah.
Having been a state of Ohio employee for a long time, we had Veterans Day off, But I have a much better appreciation for it now than I probably did 40 years ago.
Right.
So interesting. All right. Okay. So let's talk about challenges that veterans face outside of that actual hiring process. And I think this is one of the things that I learned from a lot of my veterans clients is that it's this automatic notion of if they're military, they are this. And we do that in our world to everybody. If you're Northerner, you do this. If you're a Southerner, you do this. We have to pigeonhole folks. But physical and mental issues are important. And veterans go through many problems and challenges and barriers. And I'm thinking physical probably as much or more than mental. A veteran and their family may need housing. In one of our other podcasts that we did with a veteran, she talked about having, coming out of the military with no place to live and not having the resources, especially in today's world with housing costs or transportation or needing social services. Is there anything that Bullen does to help the veterans when they're finding those kinds of issues?
So a lot of it might be due to location. We're so kind of remote and rural that it's more, we're small town. So a lot of it's like, hey, we know somebody, well, let's point you to them, see if they can help you, Beyond that, like Bullen doesn't really do anything as far as trying to like house people, stuff like that. But we haven't personally felt that impact.
That's a good thing then, if your veteran employees don't have those issues.
Yeah. Typically, I mean, if you're getting out and you're going to Eaton, you're probably moving back home to mom and dad.
Right.
Like, let's just be honest.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Kind of like how kids don't grow up to be HR managers. They don't grow up to live in Eaton, Ohio.
But there can be stress in that situation, though, too, that
Absolutely.
Mom and dad's house is now overloaded.
Absolutely.
Or you move back home and you just like, I got to get out of here. Come on, I'm 25. Whatever age, is like, I don't need to be back home. There are those issues.
And that's a lot of, there's everyone's situation's different, but the mental health issues that come out of that of, okay, people looked at me a certain way when I was in, I had amount of respect and my job was respectful and what I did every day made an impact. And then I'm out and now what, and that'll mess with you, of that I used to be important. I used to matter. There's so many things that funnel into mental health, and that's for everyone.
Oh yeah.
If you're breathing, we're all struggling with something.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But there are a lot of services that are available for veterans, and there are a lot of services available in our communities. But veteran services, the Veterans Commission does a great job making sure that services and resources are available. But going back to what you said earlier, sometimes folks are afraid to ask, but also, even when they ask, they don't realize what is available out there. And if they're not asking the right person, they're not going to get to the right place.
Right. And again, that's the main point of our employee resource group is really just, if we can they're at least aware of who we are. They're aware, they're having that bad day. Well, okay, like I know, I could go talk to, Craig in finance, or I can go talk to Bill in the machine shop. I have people I could go talk to. And that's everything. That network of not being alone and knowing, like, at minimum, I could pick up the phone.
So important. Very much so. Yeah.
The state of Ohio's Military Service Career Center provides a portal of information on programs and services for veterans. Have they or any other agency supported Bullen in their hiring veterans programs? And do you think there could be more encourage employers to increase their veteran hiring?
So ours, and trying to think, when I got on at Bullen, I'd had kind of a contact with through Job and Family Services or Ohio Means Jobs.
Yeah.
Trying to think, it's all kind of in buildings.
But I think some of the veterans hiring programs are under that umbrella. Right?
Yeah. So unfortunately, even Ohio Means Jobs has a lot of funding that we report to every month, in our meetings, where there's hey, we've got these scholarships available or what have you. And those are other programs that we can kind of, if we have somebody apply for a role, that we can kind of push them towards that and hey, we can get on if you go through here and get your education. But I had a hard time using that program personally, and it wasn't from lack of effort of the staff, right, that were trying to do it. Is I think he was in there like 2 days a week, and I was also kind of working a part-time job, just kind of fill that gap into getting what I wanted, and it just couldn't happen. So I think, again, it's a lot of the repeat issue of the stuff is there, but it might not have the right support. Mm-hmm. And I still had to kind of find out about that program. Luckily, again, I've got people in my family that were veterans that, kind of pushed me there, but not everyone's got that,
Right.
And
well, I lived through the veterans coming back from Vietnam. And at that point in time, there was very little available to them other than the GI Bill. And so, a lot of classmates or those who graduated just before me from high school were able to get to college because of that. But that was it. And when I returned to the university and was in continuing education, it just by chance happened that our office was the SOC office, the Servicemen's Opportunity Center, which really didn't mean a lot, but especially with a school as large as Ohio State. But over time, that has grown. And so that exactly. And veterans need to know to keep asking questions and don't assume that the first person you talk to has exactly the right information that you need. So just keep asking questions. I know the university here in Columbus has a huge new military program to help veterans who are going to school. So they're a little older than the rest of the campus, and there's a place for them to go, and it's growing phenomenally. And I'm guessing that there are other schools have similar type programs. And if education is the issue, there are huge training programs with the state of Ohio. So you just need to keep niggling around to see if you can find all that stuff, and don't not get help.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Our podcasts always go too fast. Even when Brett and I are off on our own tangents, asking a lot of questions, we always provide our guests the opportunity to give us the last words of wisdom. So from your experience in the military, from your experience at Bullen, from what you know veteran job applicants need today, what else can you tell our audience?
Well, a big thing is, I think, if same thing with hiring and retaining of anyone, is about how do you instill value in that person, right? Do they feel valuable at their role and their tasks that they're doing, and also do they feel part of that bigger picture? With veterans specifically, it's, do you have the opportunity for them to feel comfortable and express, in a natural way, the same as you would, if you were in a highly technical field and you're applying for a different role, like I don't understand, a lot of computer science terms and stuff like that, so I wouldn't be able to translate my skills that do transfer well. So how do we, who could be that conduit? Who can be that middle person to where they can express themselves, but also, having that Veterans Employee Resource Group there at your facilities, again, it's free to do it.
And you really bring up a good point, because for what little bit of effort or financial commitment that an employer can make to making sure there is somebody who can be that conduit, that translator from military service to civilian, a real small commitment could lead to an incredible number of great new employees.
Absolutely. And, any kind of diversity you can bring into the workplace is better. And, we've got veterans in all echelon of our company, and I feel like it's paid off. We've got many different experiences, and again, it's not that we're superior to other people, but I'm just saying that, we got a healthy mix, and just like of anything else, in order to not be in a thought chamber, you need people that are different minded than you.
Right.
So, I wonder if it could be as just as simple, kind of going down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but we have translators for other foreign languages come in and help with medical situations and interviews. Why can't we have some designated veterans that can go into interview situations and help these vets, at least the first couple of stages of it.
Right. This is not anything that we don't do with other groups of people.
Right.
The hardest.
Again, it doesn't make them special at all. It's just that you need a little help. We do this for other groups of people.
Well, and when you really think about it, it's not just that we're helping the veterans; we're helping the employers.
Well,
Bottom line is
it's
the
a two-way
employers.
street. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Well, gosh. Thank you. This has been really, really good, Ronnie. We appreciate you stopping by. Ronnie Bailey from Bullen Ultrasonics for joining us. Listeners, thank you for joining us too. Don't forget to check out our show notes on the website for contact information and those resources that Carol's mentioned. We're going to have that linked in the show notes as well as on the website today that we've talked about. You can find all that information on our website, lookingforwardourway.com. We're looking forward to hearing your feedback on this or any of our other podcast episodes.